Okay, welcome to Pitlane News. I'm Matthew Jordan. I'm joined today by Mark Blundell, who doesn't really need an introduction, to be honest. F1, Le Mans 24-hour winner, INDYCAR winner, and BTCC the last two or three seasons. Mark Blundell, welcome to Pitlane News. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Biggest question I want to ask, and I've put a few questions out there on social media. We know you're extremely various backgrounds and skills in all the driving. What led you to F1, and what was your sort of route to F1?
Route to F1, probably a little bit of an unorthodox route in many ways, and I say that because first and foremost, I never did karting.
Right.
Dare I say go-karts, because everybody gets upset when you say go-karts. So I never did karting. I did motocross. So I was on two wheels, scrambling, and basically jumped in at Formula 4 1600 level. So right. Started my motor racing career at 17 in that category.
Is that like F4?
More basic than F4, so
okay.
no aerodynamics as such, no wings, no slick tires, a treaded tire, Ford Crossflow 1600cc engine.
Okay.
So I mean, back then it was the entry category for single seater racing. That's where you started. The same as many others before me, and really from there you would normally sort of progress through the ranks of going up the tiered ladder. So that would have been, normal circumstances, Formula 4 2000, which I did do, and then jump into Formula 3, and then go sort of F3, F3000, or F2, just on the borderline when it changed over in my era. But I kind of went FF 1600, Formula 4 2000, and jumped completely and missed out F3 and went into F3000. So a big jump. And then also took a side step while I was there to go into the World Sports Car Championship. So then went off into sports cars and touched, elbows of the likes of Michael Schumacher, Frentzen, Wendlinger, Brundle, who, again, we all sort of grouped up and then ended back up in the Formula 1 pit lane. So slightly different from most, but at the same time, managed to get there.
Same goal. Brilliant. That's fantastic. I'm just also quite surprised here as well. You've gone from motocross to four wheels, which is quite rare in itself. But I studied motocross. I did this. I love to be in a car, but different sort of skills. Winning the 24-hour Le Mans. I've obviously the last several years worked a lot of guys with the Creventek guys in Holland for their 24-hour series in Europe and America and Dubai. There's something special about being involved in 24-hour. The whole atmosphere is great, but to be a winning driver in that race, how did that feel?
Well, I think first and foremost, 24-hour racing 9 times out of 10 is with more than just you. So it's it's a team effort in many respects, and that's not just the team of drivers, because obviously there is normally 3 guys or 3 guys and girls, whatever the case may be, sometimes 4, and a team behind you that has been working together, especially if you're going to do a manufacturer assault on Le Mans, probably been working together for 6 or 7 months, a big program and quite a long lead-in time. So to actually work with guys, at that level, all aiming and targeting to do one 24-hour race and to ultimately pull it off and win it, is quite an emotional thing, when it comes to the point where you do win it. And
pure emotions.
Doing what exactly. And doing what we did with Peugeot was fantastic. Excuse me. It was actually fantastic for me because it was my only race I had that season. So I had a 100% winning record, which is great. But I was a test and reserve driver at McLaren in F1 for Senna and Berger. And only had literally that one race, which was with Peugeot at Le Mans. So
that was 92, wasn't it?
For me, 92. So for me, it was a really important race, obviously, and a huge amount of focus from my side, because that's all I was actually focusing on, other than the reserve role. But Yeah, it's one of those races to win. Having your CV from any driver's point of view, I think, is fantastic. Top 3 races in the world. If you ask somebody down High Street, you know, what have you heard of? They normally go Monaco, Le Mans, and Indy 500. So, you know, I've ticked off 2 boxes, put it that way.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I agree with it. It's obviously pure passion, pure emotions, and then you've got just the 24 hours itself. People lying around sleeping, getting it. Even the catering staff, all part of that team that go towards and it is magical. I think it is a great one. You got back into, just quickly, yeah, because obviously we cover as much motorsport as possible. We have a few guys, I think there's a couple of UK guys now do the INDYCAR in America. For those people that perhaps don't know INDYCAR, what would you say the big differences are between INDYCAR and F1? Because there obviously are some huge ones.
I mean, the biggest ones are the ones that you can see, you know, blatantly. Oval racing is a different discipline to road and street racing. So, you know, the cars look similar in many ways, and, you know, to the eye, they look quite similar in concept. And in concept, they are, in terms of a single-seater racing car. But fundamentally, an F1 car is a lot more refined and pure in many of its attributes. But I would have to say to compete in IndyCar racing on an oval, whether it's a short oval or a super speedway, or, you know, Indianapolis 500 is 2.5 miles, so slightly different. I never had the luxury of doing that. I was geared up to do it and contracted to do it, but I never got to it. But I've done a couple of the big ovals on the super speedways in, you know, Michigan, Fontana, 2-mile ovals. It's the speed more than anything. I think that's the biggest constant speed. Yeah, because, you know, you're traveling. I think, you know, the quickest I've ever been was 253 miles an hour. You know, 253 on the straight of Fontana in Michigan, and 227 in the corner. So then combine that into the lap, and you're basically doing 2 miles in an average of 30 seconds.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, that's a big contrast, isn't it? And what about the concentration? Because obviously, in any car, you've got to concentrate. F1 car, your concentration has to be that much further in tune. But as someone who's done both, and yourself, I can imagine going around in circles must be a bit. That in itself surely has to be of some kind of different sort of concentration.
I would say it's, you know, I would probably put oval racing to the same levels, if not more, actually, than street racing. And I say street racing for my generation because if I took Monaco for an example, today Monaco in many ways is sanitized compared to what it was back in our day. I sound like an old man saying it in that way, but it's, you know, yeah, it is factual. I mean, if you look at the swimming pool chicane, I mean, now there's probably 1 meter, 2 meters of runoff either side. Whereas when we were doing it, that, you know, the Armco was the edge of the circuit.
Yeah, and then the pool.
Yeah, and exactly. And if you got it wrong, you hit the Armco. That was it. And an oval is the same. You know, if you get it wrong, you're going to hit concrete on the outside, or you did. Now they've got safety barriers, crushable structures, but or you get it wrong even pinching a corner on an oval, and you go down too low, and you unload your car, and you're off. So it's heightened concentration. Bearing in mind also that, you know, when I did Fontana, I won Fontana, like the California 500 in '97, and I think that race ended up being 3 hours and 15 minutes long in over 100 degrees of heat. So, you know, that it's a tough race. Is not for the faint-hearted, and concentration is also combined with physical.
Well, of course, yeah. And again, obviously,
exhaustion.
Exactly, yeah. And what about? Because obviously, this day and age, I did my nutrition diploma a few years ago, sports nutrition. Plays a big part of all athletes these days, which wasn't so much back in then. Do you participate in that sort of eating healthy and the right foods at the right time these days, or do you think it would have benefited you knowing what they know now back then?
I certainly don't do it these days, as my waistline would show you. But I quite like my food and my wine these days, which is
fair play.
That's what you get with old age. But there you go.
You deserve it.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think actually in my day, we were probably just at the beginning of the fitness, nutrition, that area. Then Senna probably brought it into mainstream in motorsport with his level of fitness that he achieved, which I think was needed by the looks of it when you look back over the years. But he very quickly understood what he needed to do. So we were just on, from my side, we were still doing lactic acid testing with blood tests from the ear. We were doing heart rate monitors, so doing all the stuff that a lot of people do today, maybe in a lot more basic terms, but we were very much in control and understanding of what we were requiring to do the race.
Brilliant. Now, as I mentioned before you came on, we did a few sort of posts and a lot of people looking forward to this interview. You are one of the most versatile drivers. BTCC, now everyone, and me included, a lot of armchair viewers and stuff, it looks like, the reason it's so popular is because it is elbows out, and it's something that I think that an average guy thinks he'll be able to do. Me included, I think I'm a good driver, and you see Matt Neal and all the guys, and you think, I can do that. And some of these guys get a lot of flack on social media, but as somebody who's F1 has got a pretty much of an impressive CV for driving, it's not that easy, is it, Mark?
So I can understand a lot of people looking at something from the outside in and going, oh, that doesn't equate. But if you're on the inside and you're looking back out, I can reel off a gazillion names of drivers who are extremely high caliber that have all struggled in the discipline. And the biggest thing for me was front wheel drive. And front wheel drive in a touring car, just couldn't get my head around it. Didn't suit my driving style. Right. Didn't do the laps that I needed to do on the lead up to the season, just because timing was the issue. Hadn't done the preparation. Probably would have done a lot better in a year after, having a season under my belt. Probably would have been a bit with a different car. But like all these things, it doesn't matter anymore. It's done. But you can look at guys who have gone into DTM and they've struggled. Several F1 drivers have done DTM and not performed. Yeah. You can look at several guys come into touring cars. Like
it's not, Andy. As I say, it looks the funnest, I must admit.
100%. I wanted to do it because I love it. It's great fun. But I just couldn't do what I wanted to do, which was even more frustrating. But lots of guys, Matt Neal, you mentioned. Matt came up to me and said, "Hey, don't worry about it. I went to go and do Aussie V8s and got my backside kicked because I couldn't drive rear wheel drive." Yeah. And it's horses for courses. So just because you're good in something doesn't mean you're going to be good in something else. And to be fair, as I always said from day one when I went into touring cars, although people just dismissed it, I was going to be learning, and at the same time, hugely respectful of the experts who are in the field, because that's exactly what they are. They're experts at doing what they do. So I have a great respect for those guys.
It is great. A lot of respect for them as well, and you can see that the effort they all put in. And it's obviously COVID's been a bit of a hard one the last few years, and a few guys have lost out. But you're back this year with a whole new team, correct?
So we're back with MB Motorsport, but we're back with new cars because we've got the Ford Focuses. We're back with the operational side of the garage being done by Motorbase Performance.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, we've got Ollie Jackson that's joined us on the driving front, along with Jake Hill, who's been with us already. So we feel that we've got a great little combination. And it's year 2 of us as a team, and huge amount of excitement. Yes. I love the races. I love the events. But we're out there to do one thing and one thing only, and that's win. So we want to try and put that together. And if we can have a good run at it, and I'm confident we've got the drivers and the cars and the team to do that, then
you've got 2 good drivers. That's for sure. Yeah, 2 great drivers. So and they're well known, and they're very hungry as well. That's a good thing. What do you have any realistic or serious goals for the team this year? What's the least you expect from the guys? Is that
if we don't stand on the podium consistently with both of our guys, I'd be disappointed.
Right.
You know, because I think over the course of a weekend and on a Sunday afternoon, they've got every opportunity to deliver that.
For sure. Yeah.
And if they keep knocking in points consistently, there's no reason why they can't be sitting in the top 3 come the end of the championship.
No, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Right. On one last question before you go, but thank you for your time. If you could go back to the peak of each of the ones you've been involved in, and be at peak in each, what would you choose? So you could choose the F1, INDYCAR, tour, as in endurance, or BTCC. If you could be the best of the best at that one, what would you choose?
I guess it'd have to be F1, because if I look back at sports cars, you know, we were successful in doing what we did there. If I look at INDYCAR, I was successful in doing stuff there. F1 just didn't quite have the same level of success, but
right,
like everything in motorsport, and you know, again, people quite don't get their heads around it, but you're only as good as what you drive. And you know, it's like a top jockey. If you ride an old nag, you're never going to get past the finish line first.
Exactly.
Yeah, and racing cars are no different. You know, so I'd probably go back to F1 in a car that, you know, had the potential to assist me in winning Grand Prix.
Mercedes, maybe.
I know that potential. Yeah, I mean, I know that potential was there because I tested race-winning cars.
Yeah.
You know, so I knew what a Grand Prix winning car was like to drive. But never got the opportunity to race one. But yeah, but if you ask me whether I'd go back in the years to, you know, go and put my best racing under my belt, I'd hand on heart, and I think a lot of guys would be the same, I'd go back to the very beginning in 1984 and 85 in Formula Ford 1600, because without doubt, yeah, the best motor racing ever had.
It was pure.
Yeah, pure, and it was motor racing. It was, you know, now wheel-to-wheel combat.
It's a bit corporate, isn't it? Yeah.
It was what racing is all about. You know, racing is exactly that. Racing wheel-to-wheel with somebody, not sitting on a line of cars looking at each other's backsides.
No, for sure. Listen, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for our customers for leaving in, customers or our viewers. Hopefully we'll meet you guys on track side later this year, if we get press accreditation, if we get the COVID rules sort of lifted, hopefully June. I think we need to have the audience back, the crowds back, because I went to see Matt last year at Silverstone, and it was all the mass, and it wasn't the same, you know, and it's not the same just for us, it's also for the drivers and the team. You know, you do the job, but it isn't the same. Imagine like a football as well, having no crowd. You don't have that same, you need to have the audience. So
I'm 100% with you, and I think from all of the touring car community, we're all welcoming every single person back in the paddock and the stands as quickly as possible.
Fingers crossed. Mark, thank you for your time.
All the best.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.